There is a phenomenon spreading across the dating world that is leaving many women more confused than ever, men suddenly stopping their pursuit of them. This silence is not loud, not dramatic, but it creates a huge gap big enough to make those who were once used to receiving attention feel unsettled. The interesting part is that women often label it emotional unavailability, as if men have become cold or afraid of emotions. But in reality, what they are facing is neither hurt nor avoidance. It is a form of disciplined indifference, a calm state of someone who no longer needs validation from anyone. This is not emotional numbness, but the result of emotional maturity, where men understand that chasing attention does not bring real value. They are unwilling to trade their inner peace for a few fleeting moments of recognition. And this intentional silence leaves many women confused because they no longer control the reactions they once believed they had power over. In today's society, where psychological pressure is growing heavier, men are beginning to prioritize their mental health more seriously. They learn to set boundaries, conserve emotional energy, and invest only in relationships that bring stability. This has created a new trend known as quiet quitting in dating, where men withdraw from draining relationships without arguments, explanations, or added drama. They simply step out when they realize it no longer fits them. This shift is changing the emotional power dynamics between the genders. When men no longer feel obligated to chase in order to prove their worth, their silence becomes a signal stronger than any words. And that is when many women begin to realize that the era where being pretty is enough has ended. Attention is no longer guaranteed. It has become something earned through sincerity and true maturity. This is only the beginning of a major shift in the dating world of the modern era. For many years, physical attractiveness has operated like a powerful currency in dating. Just being beautiful, just being able to capture attention, just sending out a few flirtatious signals was enough to generate instant interest from men. But in the modern era, that currency is rapidly losing value. What was once considered an unquestionable advantage no longer holds the same power. This quiet shift makes many women feel like they've stepped into a strange new world where the old rules no longer work, when a glance, a photo, or a seductive smile no longer receives the same response as before. Confusion appears immediately, the fear of losing attractiveness, losing value, or worse, no longer being respected the way they once were, pushes many women into a silent internal crisis. This isn't just disappointment, but a complex psychological reaction known as the collapse of the attention economy. When someone has been living off validation, used to praise, used to posting a photo and instantly receiving compliments, losing that attention feels like losing an entire source of emotional fuel. In a world where dopamine is the hormone of satisfaction, social media has unintentionally created subtle addictions. Every like, every comment, every message triggers a sense of recognition, making the brain gradually depend on those small dopamine hits. And when men stop interacting, stop texting, stop responding, a dopamine crash happens. The emptiness, the discomfort, the uneasiness. It's not because that man is deeply important, but because the brain is suddenly deprived of a chemical it has gotten used to receiving. This creates an emotional spiral that leaves many women confused as to why a small moment of silence can make them so anxious. The truth is, the attention economy in dating is collapsing, and those who relied on it the most to build their confidence will feel this shift most intensely. Not because they lack value, but because the era has changed. Modern men are more aware, more selective, and no longer driven by shallow signals the way they once were. And this very shift is opening a new chapter in the dating world where real value is what truly matters. In the landscape of modern dating, a new kind of man is emerging and reshaping how relationships operate. These are men with emotional discipline, men who have gone through enough experiences to become mature, calm, and deeply aware of their own value. They are no longer the kind of men who chase every signal from women, nor are they the ones who lose themselves just to please someone else. Instead, they know what they want, they know what improves their life, and they know what drains their mental energy. That's why their reason for stepping back from a relationship is not fear of commitment or lack of emotion, as many assume, but because they prioritize peace over chaos. A mature man understands that not every battle is worth fighting, not every emotion needs reacting to, and not everyone deserves his time. From that maturity, a new concept is being mentioned more often: emotional minimalism. This is the lifestyle of men who invest their emotions only into connections with real value relationships with respect, clarity, and genuine interaction. They no longer want to play psychological games, engage in random mood swings, or deal with exhausting emotional tests that many use unconsciously to check loyalty. To them, emotions are assets, and assets cannot be wasted. And the most important point men's silence in this era is not a punishment for anyone. It's not manipulation, not a tactic, not a mind game. That silence is a boundary, a way to protect their inner stability and shield their energy from what no longer aligns with them. When a man chooses silence, it means he is choosing himself, and that choice is redefining how dating works in the modern age. One of the biggest psychological shocks in modern dating is the moment when someone who is used to being pursued suddenly becomes invisible, when attention was once the measure of their value, the fuel for their ego, and the reason they felt special. The sudden loss of pursuit triggers deep confusion. The fear of being forgotten, replaced, or losing value begins to creep in and show itself in many forms. Some post more on social media, some find someone new to fill the void, some stay silent but internally spiral into a vague emotional emptiness. Then a familiar effect appears when the spotlight turns off, when the compliments stop, when no one initiates anymore. They must confront the truth of their ego, an ego that has been living on external validation. This feeling is described in modern psychology as losing the spotlight syndrome, the syndrome of losing the glow of attention. When someone is no longer admired as before, they easily fall into confusion, self-doubt, and even shift their behavior to try to regain the lost sense of power. But here's the important part in the modern era. Men are becoming less attracted to emotionally draining energy. The rise of the soft life culture, a lifestyle prioritizing ease, minimal drama, and peace is leading men to intentionally avoid relationships that consume emotional energy. They don't want to be the endless supplier of attention for egos that depend on it to survive. To them, peace is more important than pleasing others. This unintentionally intensifies the identity crisis in women who were used to being chased, because when men step back, when attention is no longer easy to obtain, they are forced to ask without someone else's gaze, "Who am I?" And that question is the beginning of a challenging confrontation with oneself, a challenge the new era requires everyone to face. In the past few years, the dating market has shifted so dramatically that many people don't even realize where they stand in the game anymore. One of the biggest reasons behind this reversal is the rise of the self-improving male generation. They go to the gym, they build their finances, they train discipline, they elevate their knowledge, and they improve their emotional control. When a man invests in himself long enough, confidence naturally follows. And once that confidence is solid, he no longer needs validation from women to reinforce his worth. This is the core turning point that has caused the entire dating market to shift. From a generation filled with nice guys who are easily taken advantage of, easily disrespected, easily manipulated by unreasonable expectations, a new generation of men with clear boundaries has emerged. They no longer give away their attention easily, no longer try to please someone just to receive scraps of affection. They know how to say no, they know how to step back, and they know how to set limits. This shift has created a new wave called the male self-improvement wave, the wave of men upgrading themselves in every aspect physically, mentally, and financially. Along with it is the rise of high-value men, the rise of a group of high-quality men rare, hard to access, and not easily impressed by superficial beauty. They've become a scarce resource in the dating market, and like any other market, when a resource is scarce, its value increases. This unintentionally makes women realize they no longer hold the upper hand the way they once did. When men are no longer driven by physical attraction alone, when they have the power to choose, when they can walk away even before the drama begins. The emotional power dynamic has shifted. If in the past a woman simply had to show up to attract attention, now things are no longer that simple. Because men have changed, they are maturing faster, becoming calmer and growing wiser. And this very change is rewriting the rules of the modern dating world. When we look deeper into the changes of modern dating, we realize that these shifts are not a battle between men and women, but the end of an era where many people assumed they were automatically entitled to attention, pursuit, or love from others. This is not the collapse of romance. It is the collapse of entitlement, the belief that I deserve special treatment without giving anything in return. And from that ending, a new form of love is being reborn. This transformation is clear from wanting to be loved. People are beginning to learn how to love. From wanting to be pursued, they are beginning to desire being understood. Dating is shifting from demand to connection. This opens a new societal trend called conscious dating, dating with awareness. This is a style of dating built on maturity, peace, and self-understanding. No more psychological games, no more push and pull, no more meaningless tests. Two people meet with clarity, with the intention to build something, not from emotional scarcity. Alongside it is the concept of emotional self-responsibility, the idea that each person must take responsibility for their own emotions, not dumping insecurity, anger, or neediness onto the other person and calling it love. A mature relationship does not begin with figuring out who is right or wrong, but with each person understanding they must be the best version of themselves before stepping into love. And the most important message of this part is this: real love only begins when two people meet from a place of peace, not from fear of abandonment or a hunger for attention. When love is no longer about who chases whom, who holds more power, who texts first, or who is more important, that's when authenticity has space to grow. This is the love of the new era, where connection matters more than compliments, where peace matters more than drama, and where two mature individuals find each other not out of lack, but because they genuinely choose to walk together